You're getting ready for the PMP exam and there's probably lots of information swirling around. You might be tempted to add more and more stuff to the mix, but I want to advise you to keep it as simple as possible. On this channel, we have over 2,000 videos to get you into the heart of the PMP exam. Perhaps you're on other systems. Trust me, there's enough content out there. What you need to focus on is understanding the enormity of content that you already have access to. You don't want to make one of the mistakes I made when I was getting ready for my PMP exam, and I'll show you right here. I was using this book by this brilliant author. Her name is Rita Mulcahy. And as I was reading this book, a thought came into my head, probably based on what I'd heard on the web. Why don't you add more books? So what did I do? I added in more books. And I realized it wasn't working for me. It was actually working against me. So I stopped using those other materials and I focused on the one source. This and the PMBOK guide. And that's pretty much what I used. At the end of the day, I was glad I did that because the other stuff was throwing me off. Maybe you are using too many materials. You got to whittle them down and go with one set. Otherwise, you're just going to be going round and round in circles. Now, on the screen today, I have a chart that you have seen so many times on this PMP journey. You've seen this ad nauseum. The only thing is you have not seen it like this. This is a very unique way of presenting the information on page 25. You take a look up here, I've got initiating, and I've got initiating in Agile. I've got planning, I've got planning in Agile. I've got executing, and I've got executing in Agile. Monitoring and controlling, you got it. Monitoring and controlling Agile, and closing in Agile. So what I would like for you to do, because you're taking the PMI's exam, right? You're taking the PMP exam, and it's Project Management Professional, not Agile Certified Practitioner. Why am I saying this? Because the theme of Project Manager is going to appear again and again and again on your exam. So get ready to see it. Get ready to see the language from page 25 on your exam, but camouflaged into situational questions. So you may not see develop project charter, but you could see you're working on a document that authorizes the project, working with the project sponsor, and things like that. So it is important for you to understand what exactly is happening on page 25. So today we're going to tackle just the integration area, and we're going to take them down one by one. Okay? So here we have integration. DPC. My expectation, especially if you are one of my students attuned to the channel, you already know what this means. It means develop project charter. Let's make it bigger. Develop project charter is where you create a project charter that authorizes a project or phase, and you also have an assumption log. It's a log of assumptions and constraints, and you're populating this all throughout the project. Now, in the world of Agile, you can see here we have an Agile project charter. So the concept is not foreign. Also, you have, in the world of Agile, something we call a product roadmap. Now, product roadmap is a high-level view of where you're going. It doesn't get into the nuts and bolts of the requirements and stuff, but at a high level, you can see the sequence of releases, the sequence that will help you get from where you are to where you want to go. Another thing that is big in the world of Agile when it comes to initiating, if you will, is the concept of visioning. It's one thing to have an idea that you need to go somewhere. It's another thing to have a vision. So that vision is encapsulated in the Agile Project Charter. These are things you need to be thinking about in the world of Agile. Let's move on to the next process group, still within integration. We have planning, and this is develop project management plan. That's the process, right? But how do you plan in the world of Agile? Well, moving over here, you can see we have the concept of a product backlog. The product backlog is an ordered list. It is going to go through some evolution, some metamorphosis as you proceed on the project. But for your exam, it's important that you see the product backlog as a starting point. It's not going to be the end. You're going to have some evolution that takes place in the product backlog. And every sprint, you're going to be involved in some rolling wave planning. Now, we call it rolling wave planning in the world of traditional, but we could say sprint planning in the world of Scrum, or you could say iteration planning in the world of Agile in general. And what you derive from that is a sprint plan or an iteration plan, and you also have a sprint backlog, which is a subset of the product backlog. So understanding those concepts is important. Something else that you do in the world of planning is you have estimates, and you estimate in a different way. And we talk about that in the schedule chapter, and we will be covering that as we proceed. So in executing here, we can see the concept of getting work done. And how do we do that? Well, you get work done by obeying the time box, seeing the cadence, taking whatever you said you were going to take, and actually getting it done, right? Putting it through the process. And here we have pull work, not push. So that concept is very important. Let me zoom into it. So the concept of pulling work to yourself as a team member, as opposed to getting work pushed on you, is very important, because that's how we roll in the world of Agile. As opposed to saying that is what you're going to do, we ask team members to pick what they want to do from the backlog. So that's what that means. You can see over here we have the concept of a retrospective. So managed project knowledge is the next process in executing. And as opposed to just doing a lessons learned at the end of every phase or at the end of the project as a whole, in the world of Agile, we do differently. We don't do phases in Agile, we do sprints. And at the end of every sprint, we could retrospect. And even at the end of certain key points, the team could choose to retrospect. It doesn't have to be at the end of every sprint only. But whatever the cadence for the retrospective is, it's different from the lesson learned, in that the lesson learned, no action is taken until you got all the lessons and at the end of the project, and then you're looking at the entire project and saying what went well, what didn't. But people have gotten smarter, and they now do this at the end of phases in traditional. But even smarter than that is doing that at an even tighter cadence. So great news travels fast, things not to do travels faster, and people in the entire organization are aware of what to do and what not to do, what to look out for. All right, now here we go into monitoring and controlling. And here you can see we have monitor and control project work, and we have perform integrated change control. What we get out of monitor and control project work in the world of predictive is reports. We get work performance reports. What we get out of perform integrated change control in the world of traditional is the change log. But in the world of Agile, as you can see over here, we have daily scrums. So instead of a bunch of reports being thrown at stakeholders, we don't do that. Instead, we could have things like burn up charts, burn down charts, and metrics that are shared real time. And that's part of the transparency that we experience in the world of Agile, right? We don't need to send out a big old report, but we could have access to live data as far as burn ups and burn downs. We have daily scrums, we have reviews, we have retrospectives. These are things that help us in monitoring and controlling the ongoing work in the world of Agile. And here you can have the concept of performing a great change control is a little bit different in the world of Agile. And the way this works is, once we're airborne in a sprint or in an iteration, if you will, we discourage changing stuff at random or changing stuff in the middle of the sprint. And the reason is this: one, it throws off velocity, and two, it could give a false impression of the project. But if a change really does need to happen in the middle of a sprint, it's up to the product owner to say yes or no. It's up to the product owner to say, you know what, let's stop working on this, let's work on that. And that's okay. That's part of being Agile, right? But as much as possible, within reason, we do not want to accept or encourage change in the middle of the sprint for obvious reasons, because the team is not going to be able to get what it committed to done as well as it would have if they didn't make random promises to change stuff in the middle of the sprint. So I want to discourage that. Okay. And last but not least, we can see right here, we got one thing left in closing, and that's close project or phase. And in the world of Agile, we should be ready to close anytime. We should always be ready to close. It could be that all the value is delivered, value is no longer needed. But whatever the case, you need to be ready to close at any time. It's different from closing project or phase in that we have sprints. We do a sensible closeout of each sprint. We have a sprint review, and then the next thing that occurs is a sprint retrospective. So at the end of each sprint, we're pretty much already there. Close project or phase. And how do we do that? We should be able to close at any time. We have reviews, we have retrospectives. If all the value has been delivered, that's great. If not, then we go for the next round. You continue whatever you're doing until all value has been delivered. All right, my friends, I hope this helps you. I hope it gives you insights into how to think. Remember, this is just chapter 1 of 10. So we have 10 knowledge areas, and that was just the first one. That was just integration. We're going to go through scope all the way on down. So if you found this video to be helpful, I'd love for you to hit the like button, subscribe so you'll be notified of when the other videos come out, and I'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget, if you need help with your PMP exam, go on down to Praizion.com, the name of the channel, Praizion.com, and you can find training, coaching, and mentoring to help you achieve your goal. Thank you very much, and speak to you soon. Bye for now.